I come from a very large family, a family of 9, 7 kids and our parents. I was born in a small town in Kansas. We were pretty poor. My real dad was an alcoholic. My stepdad was an alcoholic. Just moved around a lot. I think we had probably 7 or 8 different places we lived when we were kids. So no really good roots. I was kicked out of the house at the age of 19. I was graduated already. So I moved out, moved in with my aunt. Lived there for a little bit. Actually did very well. The downfall for me was moving back to the old house in the old neighborhood. When my parents decided to move, they sold me the house, me and my brother. Well, I was 20, 21 at the time, and I was not in position to really be the owner of a house. So most of my life, I've worked really hard, worked, 2, 3 jobs at a time sometimes. I eventually was introduced to crystal meth, which is, on a whole new game. It was euphoric. And at that time, I was just using casually. I moved in a roommate, and this roommate was a well-known drug dealer. And he had all the connections. And basically what we ended up with was a drug house. And he had to flee because of the law and left everything there. Well, me being business orientated, I thought, I have the clients here, I have the connections. I just kept it going. Because you can only stay out of your stash for so long. It progresses to a need at some point where you're doing the drugs just to feel normal. You get to the point to where you can't function in society unless you have the drugs. I was smart enough, and I'm using quotations here, to stay away from the heroin or the angel dust or anything like that. I knew enough that if I ever got into that stuff, I probably wouldn't be able to come back from the point of no return. Right now I replace it with, like I said, the positive things in life. That's how I feed that. And, it's worked for me for 20 years plus, I guess. Like I said, 17 was the first time I ever did anything, but it didn't take me long to get full-fledged in. Like I said, the opportunity, and it's funny that I would say this, but I had the opportunity to go to jail for an extended period of time. Well, what this opportunity allowed me to do was to permanently crash. And I'd been doing methamphetamine for so long, I was probably 130 pounds. Full-grown man, about 130 pounds. And can you imagine this frame at 130 pounds? And talking to the speaker, I weigh 215 right now. And my normal weight would be around 200. 135 pounds. And it's a good old friend. It's a party buddy. The best party buddy you can have. At some point in time, you start using the drug just to try and be normal. I remember one scenario where I'd found that normalcy, and I chose not to get high at that point because I'd had a moment, and it was a nice day like this, and it was actually offered to me, and I turned it down because I just felt normal for a change. Wow. It was wonderful. At that point, you can't stop using because society doesn't let you just shut down. First of all, if you're out there supporting yourself and you're living life, you can't just get yourself off the drug. There's no, I'm going to sleep and clean myself up for a month. It's just not a possibility for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So you just keep going. Mm-hmm. You keep going. And what you get is you get the euphoric feeling at first. Mm-hmm. And then, the good thing about crystal meth is that for a period of time, it strings you out for a period of time where you can function. Eventually it makes you crash and you feel horrible. And, you get to a point where you do almost anything to get a high. I never reached in some of the depths that some of the people will do. but everybody has their own line that they won't cross. And doing drugs, that line gets pretty gray. And you keep pushing that. A lot of time and resources trying to find a good connection, a steady connection. I was always very fortunate, quotes again, because I was pretty high up on the chain. I knew some pretty good suppliers. And I dealt the drugs. I was a dealer. I'm not proud to say it, but I was. Figure out how to get it, distribute it, and then get it again. And that's basically the pattern you'd be in. It took me 5 years to break night sweats and terrors after I got clean. I still have them occasionally. In fact, I had one last week. We all talk about our rock bottom. I was actually in prison. I was facing a longer prison term. I eventually ended up in a place out in western Kansas that only had a 4-foot fence. And you were just trusted. I mean, because you didn't want to mess up your minimum security. During this process, I was allowed, and I think it was 90 days total, I was allowed to rest, rejuvenate, start thinking straight. And by the time I got released on my 120-day callback, I got released to a halfway house. While you're at a halfway house, you have to have a game plan. They put me in an inpatient treatment program. I'd honestly, by this point in time, had made up my mind that I did not want to be a lifetime criminal. Did not want to be in jail in and out for my whole life. So I'd made up my mind at that time that I was going to take it seriously. I took the inpatient treatment program seriously. And there I found out that the state offered services. Drug addiction is considered a disability. And so the state will send you to school and give you an education and set you up with a life plan. So I took advantage of that, and the state sent me to college where I got my degree and started living a successful, productive life. Then at that point in time, I met my wife. And, you know, it's still an everyday thought to draw that line on the legal side of things and realize there is no gray line. A guy that I'd become friendships with, and I picked out certain mentors through my life, had told me that if we don't fool ourselves, I think we generally know what a good life is and a good choice. No matter what we do as a young person, it's only a fraction of our life. I'd like to be an inspiration.